Welcome to Powered by Magic,
where we discuss topics surrounding magic and common
or not so common questions.
Let's take this journey together. Hi, I'm Tatiana.
And I'm Sylvia.
And we are coming to you from Eugene, Oregon.
We invite you to conjure up a broom and ride with us.
Hey, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Not a whole lot going on. I have my Tuesday night game. I lost a player and I gained a player. So there's that. Other than that, I've been playing Overwatch a lot because I want to get a specific thing in the game and you have to get certain levels to get there.
Like any game, yeah.
Like any game. So yeah, I've been playing Overwatch a lot with a friend.
Okay, cool.
It's been a lot of fun.
Nice.
How about you?
Again, not a lot going on. I have thankfully had a break in house sitting. That's been nice. I went to a retirement party yesterday, which is sweet and salty at the same time, you know,
Bittersweet.
Bittersweet, yes, that's what I'm trying to say. It's great that somebody got to retire. I think that that's just a fantastic thing since it seems so uncommon these days.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like such a, I don't know, out there kind of concept. It's not attainable for me, for sure. So very happy for this person that they got to retire and they worked hard to do that. And then there is that bittersweet part where it's like, I wish I could. I wish that would happen for me someday, but I know it's not going to. Anyway, it was a fun party. Then this morning woke up to some snow. Not a lot, but a little.
There was some.
And it was snowing a bit for a while. It was nice to sit with you out on the porch and have some coffee and
watch
enjoy
the
it.
snow come down.
So that was a very nice start to the day. And now here we are.
Yeah.
Well, shall we begin?
We shall begin. All right, so this is a Q&A episode. It's a collection of our thoughts and ideas on a collection of questions on magic in general.
Yeah. Well, let's start with, how do I de-Christianize my mind?
Now, this is kind of a touchy topic just because Christianity is kind of the main religion of where we live in United States. I believe that you should examine your own beliefs and try to figure out whether they are something you believe or something that you were taught. Now, I've had to do this myself, and it's been a very long process reprogramming my mind, but it's been successful so far. There's still a few things that my anxiety will pop up about, and I have to sit there and go, okay, is this something I'm actually anxious about, or is this something that I've been told that, oh, hey, this is bad?
Okay. Can you give an example of something like that? Is that possible?
Yeah. So when I first started tarot, it was something that was very anxiety producing for me. But it was like, no, this is part of my practice. This is part of what I believe. And it took a while before the anxiety of being told, hey, this is bad and you're not supposed to do it and it's demonic and stuff like that. It took quite a while before that finally fell away and left me alone.
And you managed to let it fall away just by doing the practice and continuing
just by
to do
continuing the practice, and once that feeling or that belief came up, I would say, no, this is how I practice, this is what I believe in. And I would use my own logic and thoughts to counteract that belief that I was taught.
Yeah, so really taking a conscious effort.
Yes.
To shift it.
Yeah, it was more than just doing it. It was a conscious effort to.
Right. Cool. I think it's good to go through other cultures and religions and myths to find out what feels like home, what feels right, and then research the history of where it began and where then Christianity converted it over time, because we see that so often. And I'm not trying to diss Christianity. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
But if you look over history, you will see that is recorded in history often, that it has been, that it's taken over another religion or belief. And so I think that if you're not sure about Christianity, you should go and look and explore.
Yeah.
And then do some research and see if it, feels right to you or not. And it may not. So and then there's nothing wrong with that. You may just stay Christian, and that's totally fine. But if you decide you want to come over to the dark side, then just find out what feels right to you.
Yeah. That's also been a part of my practice, is examining other religions and cultures and so on and so forth to see, hey, is this something that I harmonize with? Because part of the hard part about de-Christianizing yourself is not having opposing or different beliefs to actually look over and go, hey, is this how I feel?
Right.
How do you make yourself believe? Does belief even matter?
I believe because throughout my life, I've had many unusual experiences that could not be explained in traditional religion. When I came upon Wicca, I found that it coincided with all those things that I had had happen before and more. And it felt like home, natural, so I chose to follow that path. I felt like it was already within me. It was a part of me already. I didn't have to work at it. I believe it was just natural. And I think that's what the connection should be to whatever you follow, is it just feel very natural to you. And be thought-provoking, too. Make you work a little bit. You would think with Wicca, like, that's not really an effort to be made other than doing fun magic. But that's not true.
Yeah.
You know, the one of the core beliefs is you have to take on responsibility for your actions and what you do. And if you know something is not right, you can't just turn away from it. You actually have to face it and work on it. And that's true of many religions. It's just that I think people misunderstand that with something like Wicca, and they just think it's like, oh, fun magic, let's just do this. It's not.
Yeah, and I would say research is also a big part of it.
Right. And so I do believe that belief is everything. Without it, there's little way to attach to the energy that you wish to use to affect change. So I think that it is important to have belief.
Yeah. For me, sometimes I choose to believe, and sometimes it feels like the belief has always been there. As far as spells and intentions, though, belief is everything. If you don't believe and see the outcome of your spell, then the energy put into it will be less and muddled with doubt.
And that takes away from the actual outcome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vetting your sources and being careful about who you follow and why.
I'd say it goes without saying, but obviously we're going to say it. Vet your sources. Wikipedia is a nice place to start, but it is not dependable. Start with some well-known authors is what I would recommend. Silver Ravenwolf, Starhawk, Scott Cunningham, Buckland. But also look to the history of any given magical interest. Background can be everything, and naturally context is a factor. Also, you can research well-known covens and then glean information from them. Today, it's hard to know what a good source is, so if you get multiple places referring to the same area, then I think there's a fair chance that it's a good source. That's kind of my rule of thumb. Even when I'm on Amazon, I kind of look at all the, what do you call them? Help me.
Resources?
No. People's... Oh, come on. When people give feedback. Okay.
Oh, recommendations?
Recommendations or whatever. It's not quite
Reviews?
Right. Reviews. There we go. Reviews.
Okay.
So it's kind of like that. When I do that, I go through and I don't look at all the good ones. I kind of look for the bad ones.
You generally get more information out of those.
Yeah, you get the information, but you can see a bad one and go, oh, well, oh my gosh, it's all bad. No, if you see one bad one, it could just be that person. But if you see 3 to 5, then it's like, oh yeah, okay, there is this one common theme involved that is probably true. Yeah. And so that's kind of how I look at finding good resources, is try to see if they match up with others. So doing more than one is a good way to do it. Yeah. But the people that I mentioned are very well known and reputable, so those are some.
For me, please don't just do what someone tells you just because they're popular or well known. That does not necessarily mean they're knowledgeable. it means they're entertaining. Tatiana already listed some good authors, but if you need some general information, learnreligions.com is good, as well as pathos.com. And cross-reference whatever spells you're doing. I just did a spell, or helped my brother make a spell for another person, and I cross-referenced between 2 different books the different herbs that I was using.
Mm-hmm.
To make sure, okay, here, this is what this does, and this is what this is supposed to be, and so on and so forth.
Right.
I didn't just go, oh, hey, this one book is good, and I'm just going to go with it.
Right. Exactly. It's just the same thing. It's just cross-referencing, get multiple ones that say the similar thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But also just follow your gut and intuition, too, I think, to some degree.
Yeah.
You can intuit and get a feel what feels right, what is right to you.
Yeah.
So you can kind of get a feel, but always vet.
Yes, yes. What can I use witchcraft for? And what not to use witchcraft for?
It's much easier to ask what you shouldn't use it for, in my opinion. I suggest not using it for ill will, as that's a big one. It's unlikely to help with things like gambling, since that's not how witchcraft works.
Mm-hmm.
Witchcraft is using energy to effect change you desire within the constructs of some basic laws, one of which is, be it within the will of the universe. So it's up to the universe a little bit too. It's not just you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll come to this, but I don't feel that we get the final say, in other words. That's kind of where I'm coming from with that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, witchcraft is about setting an intention and a goal to create change, which requires you to be an ongoing participant.
Yes.
So again, with gambling, it's not going to be a good example, but it's just, you have to participate in it and do the effort and the work. And the universe has a say, so it's not all just you. So I just don't think that it's not good for that kind of thing. I'm not saying that very well. But
Gambling is kind of a quick fix kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a quick money getting thing, or it's a money losing thing. But,
yeah.
But
it's a slippery slope. But anyway.
Yeah,
I digress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so what can it be used for? Things you desire for yourself that you're willing to put your energy towards and work on. And I guess that's really what I'm saying is It's something for yourself. You don't do magic for other people. If they ask you to do magic for them, then it's important that you can help them. Mm-hmm. But the part that's really important is that they still do the work. Mm-hmm. They have to have some actionable, accountable work that they do within the magic. You cannot really, truly do it for them.
Yeah.
That is my very strong belief.
Yeah, you've got to take care of and do things yourself. It's being self-reliant and being self-responsible.
Yeah, exactly. Responsible. Yeah, just taking on a part of that is part of your lesson. Mm-hmm.
For me, witchcraft is for changing the world in accordance with your will. Now, I would say that free will is sacred and never do anything that impinges on someone's free will. And ye harm none, do what ye will, is a good way to go about it. Also, there are more powerful forces at work, so you might not always get what you want. As for what witchcraft can do, it can help heal your heart and mind. It can give lessons in self-sufficiency, and yes, it can change the world around you in a way that you desire. But again, you definitely have to have that part of working for it. Mm-hmm. You can't just do a spell and then do nothing else.
Right. You have to be a part of it. Mm-hmm. And I love that you pointed out, which I meant to point out, was the and ye harm none, do what ye will. I mean, that's a core belief. That's the core belief.
Well, for Wiccans, yes.
But true, for Wiccans, in fairness. I have to always remind myself, and Sylvia often reminds me, that I come from a Wicca-based tradition. That's where I started out and learned, and so that's what I'm familiar with. Mm-hmm. I don't have as much experience with other things as she does, so please take a grain of salt when I say something. I love that Sylvia keeps me in touch and in my place. How important are the elements and directions? Are they different energies and entities?
Wicca bases much on the elements and directions, but not all pagans do. For me, the elements and directions are very important and very much intertwined. I do believe they are separate, however. They are associated, but not the same thing. At least to me.
Yeah. To me, the elements are one of the foundations from which we work. It's a part of how we pull our energy together cohesively and in a balanced manner to direct our energy into our magic. I feel they are separate entities that overlap each other. Each element is unto its own a source of a particular type of power. We pull upon the ones we need to effect change. The best magic is when you can balance them all together. I'm of Wiccan tradition, as I just said, so it's difficult for me to see doing magic without them, but I am sure that there are those who can do that.
Can you have multiple matrons and patrons, not counting the triple goddess? Can you frequently communicate with a deity that isn't your matron or patron? Now, I can't really speak to this as I do not have either a matron or a patron at this point.
Okay. My answer is yes. That's the simple answer. It is good to find a main deity that you can connect with first and create a strong relationship with them. But once that's done, it's important that you realize that they may not be the best one for every job. Deities have their own specialities, and it's like using water to light a match. You want to use the right one for the job. I contend that your main deity is most powerful for general uses and things that are their strong points. They make excellent consultants, too. You can go to them for advice on most topics, including asking about a use of another deity. Do you have to have a matron or patron? No, but it can be helpful. I think that what I was trying to say with the water to light a match piece is that your matron may have all the abilities to, cover things, but they may not be strongest to light the match. It might be that you find another deity that is just better suited. So I don't think you should exclusively rely on a matron or a patron to do your magic. I think you should be open-minded to others.
Yeah. The practices of collecting things from nature. How, what, where, when, leave offerings, etc.
There are many different beliefs on this. When collecting, I think almost everyone can agree that you must ask for permission from the item first. Then listen to your heart and hear the answer and truly listen. Collecting items from anywhere you can get permission is a safe bet, but natural in nature is optimal. It's important to consider the surroundings if it's not out in nature. A highly trafficked area is not something that I'd recommend, for example. If you're on the side of the road and there's a rowan tree and you want to get a rowan branch, but it's a busy street, you have to consider all of the energies that are crossing past or going past that tree and what is being absorbed. So it's really important to consider your surroundings, which is why nature is the best place to get it from. Timing might be based on the type of the magic you are doing, correlating to the seasons, time of day, or moon phases. Always leave offerings or bring back an offering if you've forgotten some. This has happened to me on occasion where I've forgotten to bring an offering, so I just make sure that I go back, or I go to some other place in nature and offer something back. And I do recommend that you give something that won't hurt the environment. Now, one could argue that anything might be hurtful, but things like honey, milk, herbs, bird seeds, other things from nature, or things that disintegrate are the best. Now, on one occasion, due to the type of magic that was being done, I left a crystal hanging on a branch in order to give back to humanity. And the idea was that the right person would find it and gain joy in it. or it would drop and be there for the fae. It's not something I would do all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it harmed anything.
Yeah.
And it was, I think that anybody who passed by it, it brought some joy. It was reflective light. It was a nice crystal hanging on a clear thread. It felt magical. Mm-hmm. And that was the whole purpose, was just to bring, give that back to humanity.
Yeah.
So it just sort of depends on what kind of magic you're doing, but definitely have an awareness around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Collecting from nature is a big privilege. Remember to give back and keep things sustainable. When you gather, keep in mind the timing. After a big storm might be a great time to find a branch good for a wand. It would be charged with lots of extra energy.
As with water.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, that's great for pointing that out. I like that.
Yeah, thank you.
How precise do you need to be with the timing of an event? Moon phases and holidays?
For me, with spells, it's as precise as you wish to be. But keep in mind, the less precise you are with it, the less energy the timing will provide. As far as holidays, about a week leading up to and after. But keep in mind again, the less precise, the less energy.
Mm-hmm. The closer you are to an appropriate timing, the better. But it doesn't have to be exact. We used to do rituals celebrating the moon or the holidays on the weekends during our class time, but as close to the event as possible. So if it fell on a Thursday, for example, we would then celebrate it the coming weekend. I'm often asked about full moon magic, etc., and you usually have about 3 days before and after the actual official full moon.
Mm.
You just gave the example about a week before or a week after a holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, the closer you can be to it, the better.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't absolutely necessary. You do have grace period.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And I think that, like I say, we did ours together, usually not on the day of the actual event.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fact of the energy of the group itself being all in one really kind of made up for it, because we were all focused, really concentrating on that holiday and absorbed it into us as if it were the actual holiday. So I think that really helped to keep the energy still very strong.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I felt. Is it possible to do other things while casting a spell? ADHD, etc.?
Now, having ADHD myself, I can understand this question. If you have a period of time where after you've cast the spell itself and you have to wait, let's say you have a tea light and you want to wait for it to burn down before you actually close your circle, you can do something like have a coloring page that has the theme of the spell in it. So if you're doing a spell of transformation, something with butterflies or that sort of thing, that'll help you keep in mind the spell. Now, if you've closed circle already and are waiting for a candle to burn down, take all due precautions for fire, but I think it's fine to do other things.
Yeah. Now, I did not prepare my answer and look at your answer in advance, so we have overlapped a little bit.
Okay.
I think it all depends on what you keep yourself focused on. My initial reaction is that you should be focused on the deed at hand exclusively, since doing other things at the same time can lessen the amount of energy you put into the actual magic. However, as you pointed out to me, some people can focus better if they're doing more than one thing at a time. Spells are tricky, though. Every thought that passes through the mind is adding its energy to the spell, so be very careful of how you split your focus. At the very least, try working on only magic while doing a spell. Coloring and doing a spell might actually add power to what you are doing, for example. And that's where we overlapped. Finding something that can also add power to it is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
I think that is almost, it's as good, if not possibly better. Who knows?
If it works for you, then...
Yeah, I mean, if it's what keeps you focused, then yeah, it's better.
Exactly.
How can I create a mobile altar?
This is one we see every so often, actually. And an easy way to do this is to get an Altoids tin and put a tea light in it with a little something to represent each element. Now, I actually for a while I carried around 4 double-pointed stones. One was in the color of each element. And if I needed a small altar, I would pull out those 4 stones, make sure I knew the direction of north, and put them in that direction, with earth and north and so on and so forth. And I would use that small altar wherever I went. I had it with me.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's in your purse or whatever, pocket.
It was in my pocket.
Yeah, nice. I like that.
There are many ways of doing it, though.
Mm-hmm. One way that I've done is to have a shoebox, like a large shoebox is nice. Not outrageously, but a shoebox that contains elemental candles and holders or different items to represent the elements, like a feather for east, a match or a lighter for south, a vial of water for west, and a stone for earth. Then add a couple of electric tea lights to represent the god and goddess. Or you can do regular candles. Different colored ones would be nice if they're real tea lights. Some sage, incense, a small double-edged knife if you can, a small dish for ashes. One thing I found is the bottom of a very small flower pot will do a great job for that. I had one that was terracotta, and that was nice. It was really, very small, and it's all I needed just to keep the ashes and to be able to tamp it out when it was done, just so you have that. And you're being cautious, fire cautious.
Mm-hmm.
You can open your box and set the items up and have your ritual and then put it all back together again. Or you can leave it in the box if, depending on the size, and just have it right there. All you have to do is take off the lid and there it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a similar one for myself. But as with anything, always practice fire safety.
Yeah.
How do spell jars work? Do tell.
In the sense of witch jars, also called protection jars, the negative energy gets trapped in the jar with the other nasty things in there. Now, there are some nasty things in there. You put stuff like broken mirror, rusted nails. I've heard tell of urine being put in there. With other jars, people will shake them up every so often to get the energy going again. So you can have money jars. So when you need a little extra energy towards money, you shake it up. And, you think about it, meditate on it for a little bit.
So basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, you would, if you want to get rid of negative energy or draw the negative energy into the jar, you would put things that were kind of negative in the jar.
Mm-hmm.
And you would put positive things in the jar if you were trying to draw in positive items and then shaking it up just to draw the attention again. Is that kind of the idea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm not familiar with those, so I let you take over on that one.
No worries.
What does it mean when a spell goes awry? A spell jar breaks, candles explode, water spills, etc.
Depending on the effect, it could be any number of things. The spell could be done. It could need more energy spent on it, or it could be that it got a sudden burst of energy.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've had this happen, and I chose to believe that it meant the spell had reached its max capacity and was done. I did a money spell and added oils and herbs and whatnot into a glass jar candle, a very tall one, and it didn't take very long before that exploded and glass kind of went everywhere and it was a mess. And
oh geez,
yeah, it was one of my first early on spells, and it was very powerful and it did work. It didn't work the way I expected it to. I had been doing many small spells for money and I was getting small responses back. Just odd things like getting an opportunity to go be part of a panel and get $100 to be part of the panel. So I would get these small things back, but it wasn't affecting the change I needed. So I did this one that exploded, and I ended up, we filed for bankruptcy. Now that might sound like it was bad, but it actually for us was a really good resolution. And it was unexpected, sort of like the candle exploding. It was very unexpected. So that was one thing that had happened. But some have mentioned water turning a different color or a candle being blown out, etc. In these cases, it may be that an entity has found its way in, and you may wish to deconstruct the magic and start again. And if you do this, I suggest adding to the spell some form of protection, whether by ingredient or by chant. Just that's another thought. How to get back into witchcraft after being away for a few years.
Now, I can't speak to this because compared to Tatiana, I'm relatively new, and I have not been away from the craft as of this point.
I've been, quote unquote, gone from the craft for over 12 years in being actually active. I've never stopped believing, though. That's really important to say. I've never stopped believing. It's always been a part of my heart. I started my practice officially back in the 90s, before much of anything was available. Things were still on the down low at that point in time. And then I taught for 10 years, and after that came to an end, I ended up as a solitary practitioner. And that's when I lost touch. The internet was just starting to open its doors to being more public to the craft. Skip forward about 13 years, and here I am trying to become active again. And let me just say, it's very, very hard. I'm really struggling with it. I don't know where to turn or how to reconnect. I think it's important to know if you practice better alone or with a group to start off with. Solitaries need only start researching on the web, reading, and practicing and doing those things that call to them as magic. That's still work. I don't want to say only, not suggesting that it's not work. It is. Others have a little harder because finding a group or like-minded people is very difficult. Finding a group locally is optimal for me, but it is not so easy these days. So I turned to the net and happened upon a group that I cautiously had started partaking in. Now, I'm very invested in them at this point, and I mean that both literally and metaphorically, and I am starting to pick up the pieces. I do want to say that when I started with this group, I think I came across them via Facebook, which, you always kind of go, oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And you never know. I decided to take a chance. It was a freebie class, and they had another freebie class and another freebie class, and I really liked what I was seeing. And then I decided to invest in one of their larger classes, and then I continued, and I've gotten really invested in that sense. Now, they aren't perfect match for me, but they are the best that I've found so far. I currently still feel disconnected, but that I think is just going to take time of actually doing magic and time itself. My cat has come to join us again. Right at the end. So yeah, I think it's really hard to get back in. It doesn't have to be, I guess, but for me it has been. And I'm very sad about that. I didn't realize how out of touch I'd become. I thought it was just always right there. Like, oh, it's easy to reach into, no problem. And, life has changed. And I don't have the same amount of time I used to have. And I don't have the people around me that I used to have. Yeah, now I'm just trying to pick up the pieces.
Yeah. All right. Well, please rate us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever else you've found us.
I am Tatiana saying goodbye for now.
And I'm Sylvia saying so long and thank you for writing with us.
This has been
Powered by Magic.
Thank you everybody so much.
Thank you. Have a good day, night, whatever it might be.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.